The lonely night. It was the coldest night of the year in the small human colony on planet Feroz. The wind howled outside, rattling the metal walls of Jack's little house. The night was so dark that even the moons hid behind heavy clouds. Jack sat alone by the heater, reading an old book. He liked the quiet, but tonight the silence felt heavy, almost like something was about to happen. Suddenly, there was a soft, desperate knock at the door. Jack frowned. No one ever came by this late, not in this part of the colony. He set his book down and stood up, heart beating faster. The knock came again, a little louder this time, almost as if someone was scared. Jack walked to the door and opened it slowly, careful to peek outside first. He expected to see one of his neighbors, maybe Marcus, coming to borrow tools again. But what he saw instead made him freeze. Standing on his doorstep was an alien woman, tall and thin, wrapped in a worn blanket. Her skin was a deep shade of violet, glowing softly in the pale light. She had big, silver eyes full of fear and hope. Behind her, hiding in the folds of her blanket, were two small alien children. Both looked tired, cold, and hungry. Their faces were streaked with tears. Jack had seen aliens before after all. Feroz was a world where humans and aliens tried to live together. But he had never had one at his door, especially not in the middle of the night. The woman looked up at Jack with pleading eyes. She spoke in a soft voice, careful with her words. "Please, sir, can you help us? My children. We have nowhere else to go. We are so cold and so hungry." Jack didn't know what to say. He glanced up and down the empty street. No one else was out. The night felt even colder now, biting at his skin. He saw that the children were shivering, their tiny hands clutching their mother's dress. For a long moment, Jack hesitated. He knew the rules. Humans and aliens could live in peace, but most people still stayed apart. Some didn't trust the aliens and others just didn't care. But Jack was not like most people. He had come to Feroz for a new life, a better life, one where he could choose who he wanted to be. Finally, Jack opened the door wider. "Come in, quickly," he said. The alien woman's face broke into a look of pure relief. She gently guided her children inside, careful not to touch Jack unless he wanted her to. Once they were all in, Jack closed the door and turned up the heater. The children crowded near the heater, warming their hands and feet. Jack brought them a blanket and some water. He noticed how thin the children were, their clothes too small and torn. The woman hugged her children tightly, whispering something in their language. Jack watched them, still trying to understand what had just happened. He cleared his throat. "My name is Jack," he said quietly. "Why are you out here so late? Is someone after you?" The alien woman looked at Jack, her eyes shining with worry. "My name is Soraya," she said. "My husband. He died some weeks ago. We have no one left. The people here, they don't want us. They told us to leave. But I have nowhere to go. My children need a home. They need a father. Please, I can help you, work for you, warm your bed if you wish. Just don't send us away." Jack was silent, unsure what to say. He could feel the fear in Soraya's voice, the desperation. He saw the hope in the children's eyes, hope that maybe tonight they would sleep safe and warm. He thought of his own loneliness, the empty house, the long quiet nights. He wondered what it would be like to share his home, even with strangers. Jack had always wanted a family, but never thought he would find one like this. Outside, the wind howled louder, making the house creak. Somewhere far away, there was a strange sound like someone moving in the shadows. Jack glanced at the window, uneasy. "Don't worry," Jack said softly. "You can stay as long as you need." Soraya smiled for the first time, her silver eyes shining with tears. She nodded, pulling her children close. The children looked up at Jack with quiet wonder, unsure but hopeful. That night, as the family slept huddled together on Jack's old couch, He sat by the window, watching the darkness. He didn't know what danger was out there or what he had just invited into his life. But one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same after this lonely night. The unspoken deal morning came quietly, but the storm outside still raged. Jack woke up to the smell of something warm and unfamiliar scent, sweet and spicy. He rubbed his eyes and walked into the kitchen. There, Saraya stood by the tiny stove, awkwardly learning how to use human cooking tools. The two alien children sat at the table, watching her with sleepy eyes, still wrapped in Jack's old blankets. Jack cleared his throat. "Good morning." Saraya looked over, a little nervous but determined to show respect. "I tried to make food," she said, holding out a bowl of something steaming and strange. The smell was different, but it made Jack's mouth water. He tasted a spoonful. It was odd, but good, a mix of flavors he'd never tried before. The children giggled, their first smile since arriving. For a moment, the small house felt almost like a real home. Jack sat down across from Saraya. The silence was awkward, filled only by the sound of the storm and the children slurping breakfast. Finally, Saraya spoke, her voice low and serious. "Thank you for saving us last night. I want to pay you back. I will clean your house, cook for you, do whatever you need. I will even share your bed if you wish." She looked away, cheeks darkening with embarrassment. Jack nearly choked on his food. He looked at the alien widow, surprised and a little flustered. "You don't have to," he started, but Saraya cut him off gently, "in my people's way. When a widow seeks shelter, she offers what she can. I am not ashamed, only grateful. My children, they need safety. I will not be a burden." Jack could see the fear in her eyes, mixed with hope. He nodded slowly. "You don't owe me anything. Saraya, you and the kids can stay here. But you don't have to do more than that." Saraya's shoulders relaxed a little, though Jack could tell she wasn't fully convinced. She nodded, but her eyes searched his face for any sign of anger or disappointment. Morning passed quietly. Jack went outside to check the solar panels, keeping an eye out for trouble. The storm had knocked down a few power lines, and the street was empty, almost too empty. He saw strange footprints in the mud, too big to be from any human. Jack's stomach twisted with worry. Back inside, Saraya cleaned the living room while the children played quietly. She moved with careful, practiced hands, picking up toys, folding blankets, and even fixing a loose handle on the heater. Jack watched her for a moment, surprised at how quickly she worked. He decided to ask her about last night. "Saraya, why did you come to my house? Why not the shelter in the center of the colony?" Saraya hesitated, glancing at her children. She lowered her voice. "We tried. They told us there was no space, but I saw the empty rooms. Some humans. They don't want us here. My husband was killed by raiders, bad people who hunt widows like me. I was afraid they would find us if we stayed where everyone could see." Jack felt anger building inside. He knew some people in the colony were cold to aliens, but he didn't think anyone would leave a mother and her children out in the storm. He made up his mind. "You're safe here," he said firmly. "If anyone gives you trouble, they'll have to go through me first." Saraya's eyes filled with gratitude. She moved closer, not touching him but standing with her head bowed, a sign of respect in her culture. "Thank you, Jack. You are a good man." As the day went on, Jack tried to act normal, but he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching the house. Several times he thought he saw movement out the window, a shadow slipping behind the neighbor's wall, or a glint of eyes in the bushes. That evening, as the sun set and the sky turned purple, Jack heard something outside. It was soft, like footsteps in wet grass. He peeked through the curtain. Two figures stood at the edge of his yard, faces hidden under hoods. They didn't move. They just stared at the house. Jack locked the door and checked his old hunting rifle. He didn't want trouble, but he wouldn't let anyone hurt Saraya or her children. When he turned around, He found Soraya watching him. She must have sensed his fear. Quietly, she said, "The bad people, they follow me. They want to take my children. That is why I was so desperate last night." Jack swallowed hard. He nodded, then sat by the window, gun in hand, waiting as darkness fell. Inside the house, Soraya tucked her children into bed, singing to them in her soft alien voice. Outside, the shadows grew longer and the storm howled on. But Jack promised himself, tonight no one would harm the family sleeping under his roof. Shadows in the night that night, after Soraya sang her children to sleep, the house grew quiet, too quiet for Jack's liking. He double-checked every door and window, feeling tension in his chest he couldn't shake off. The storm was gone, but an uneasy silence settled over the colony. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Jack sat in his old armchair by the front window, holding his hunting rifle on his lap. Outside, the world was dark except for the blue glow of the streetlights. He kept thinking about the hooded figures he saw earlier. Who were they? Why were they watching his house? He tried to convince himself it was just his imagination, but deep down he knew better. From the hallway, Soraya appeared, her face pale in the dim light. She was holding a thin pillow. "May I sit with you?" she asked softly. Jack nodded, and Soraya settled beside him, careful not to get too close. For a while, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the steady ticking of the old wall clock. Finally, Soraya broke the silence. "You are not used to danger, are you, Jack?" Jack glanced at her, surprised. "I was a soldier once," he said quietly, "but that was years ago. Since I came to Feroz, I just wanted peace. Quiet nights, honest work. But now," he looked out the window again, searching the darkness, "now it feels like trouble followed you here." Soraya looked down at her hands. "I'm sorry. If you want us to leave," Jack cut her off gently. "No, you and your children stay. I'd never forgive myself if something happened to you out there." A flash of gratitude crossed Soraya's face. But then, a noise outside, the soft crunch of boots and gravel. Jack's grip tightened on his rifle. Through the window he saw a shadow slip past the fence, moving quickly toward the back of the house. Soraya's eyes widened. "They're here." Jack nodded grimly and stood up. He motioned for Soraya to stay low. He moved through the dark house, heart pounding. Every shadow looked dangerous now. He checked the back door and saw, through the small window, 2 figures standing in his yard. One of them held a strange, glowing device, alien technology, not from this colony. He whispered to Soraya, "Get your kids and hide in the storage closet. Don't come out until I say." Soraya nodded, fear clear on her face, but she obeyed. She gathered her sleeping children and disappeared quietly into the back room. Jack steadied his breath. He thought about his old life, about the battles he fought on distant worlds. He remembered the promise he made to himself to never pick up a weapon again. But tonight was different. Tonight, he had something to protect. He turned off the lights and crept to the back door. He could hear the raiders whispering in their harsh language, scanning the yard with the strange device. Jack peered through the crack and saw one of them. Thick-set alien with sharp tusks and armor made from scavenged metal. The other was smaller, cloaked, face hidden. Jack stepped outside, rifle aimed at the ground. "Leave now," he called in a steady voice, "or I'll make you regret it." The 2 figures froze. The big one snarled, "This is not your business, human. Give us the widow and the children, and we'll leave you alone." Jack shook his head. "Not happening. Go back to the shadows where you belong." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then the smaller figure pulled out a plasma knife, its blade sparking blue in the dark. Jack's pulse raced, but he didn't back down. He raised his rifle, finger on the trigger. The raiders hesitated, eyeing the weapon. They weren't used to humans standing up to them. Finally, the big one spat on the ground. "This isn't over," he growled, and the two melted back into the darkness. Jack waited, heart hammering, until he was sure they were gone. He locked the door and checked every window again. When he finally let Soraya and the children out, he saw how tightly the kids clung to her, shaking. "It's safe for now," Jack said gently, "but we need to be ready." "They'll be back," Soraya nodded. She looked at Jack, her eyes filled with gratitude and new respect. "Thank you for not giving us up. Most humans would have been afraid." Jack smiled sadly. "I am afraid, but I won't let fear decide who I am." That night, Soraya and the children slept together in the small storage room, too scared to sleep alone. Jack stayed awake, watching over them. In the quiet, he realized he wasn't alone anymore. Whatever happened next, he would face it for them. Outside, the shadows watched and waited. But inside Jack's house, a new kind of hope had begun to grow. The cold welcome morning on Feroz came with a pale sun and a biting wind. The storm was gone, but the air felt sharp, as if it could cut through even the thickest coat. Inside Jack's small house, the alien children slept beside their mother, safe but restless, mumbling in their sleep. Jack barely slept at all. He stared out the window as the colony slowly woke up. Jack brewed coffee and made a simple breakfast for everyone. The children ate hungrily, smiling shyly at Jack. Soraya whispered thanks, bowing her head politely. There was a soft comfort in the house, almost like a family, but Jack knew peace couldn't last forever. A loud knock startled everyone. Jack's heart jumped. He opened the door to see Marcus, his old friend and neighbor, standing there with a worried look. Behind Marcus, two more neighbors lingered, whispering to each other, their faces hard and suspicious. "Morning, Jack," Marcus said, but his voice was tense. "People are talking. Word is you took in a visitor last night. That true?" Jack looked back at Soraya and her children, then nodded. Yes, they had nowhere else to go. One of the other neighbors, a short, sharp-faced woman named Mrs. Delvin, sniffed loudly. "Aliens bring trouble. The last time we let their kind stay, we lost half our chickens and the storage shed caught fire." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Just be careful, Jack. Some folks are scared. Raiders were seen near the south fence. If something happens, the colony leaders might not protect you." Jack stood tall, refusing to back down. "Soraya and her kids are my guests. They need help. If anyone's got a problem, they can talk to me." The neighbors muttered and left, but Marcus lingered. He looked Jack in the eye and quietly handed over a small bag of canned food. "For the kids," he said. "And I'll keep watch tonight. I don't trust those raiders either." Jack squeezed Marcus's shoulder in thanks. As he closed the door, he saw Soraya's grateful smile. "You are risking a lot for us," she said quietly. Jack shrugged. "No one should face danger alone, not here." Soraya helped with chores all morning. She scrubbed the floors, fixed a leaking pipe, and taught the children to pick up after themselves. Jack watched how carefully she moved, never wasting anything. Always gentle with her children. Her hands, though rough from hard work, moved with skill and care. But outside, the mood in the colony changed. Everywhere Jack went, walking to the shop, checking the power lines, he felt eyes watching him. People whispered as he passed. Someone painted a warning on his fence. "Aliens go home," in big, angry letters at the shop. The shopkeeper refused to sell him fresh bread. "Sorry, Jack, orders from the top. No extras for anyone helping outsiders." Jack felt anger burn in his chest, but he said nothing. He bought what little he could and hurried home. Back at the house, Soraya was fixing the heater with a screwdriver she'd found in Jack's toolbox. She looked up as he entered, reading the trouble in his face. "They do not want us here," she said quietly. Jack forced a small smile. "Let them talk. They'll see we mean no harm." But Soraya's eyes were full of sadness. "We tried. to live with humans before in other colonies. Each time something bad happened, people blamed us. My husband, he died because he tried to protect us. Jack listened, feeling a deep ache in his heart for her pain. He gently set a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to run anymore, not from me. That evening, as dusk settled, Marcus returned with a bundle of old blankets and a bag of apples. He told Jack, I'll sleep in the shed tonight, just in case. If the raiders come back, I'll signal you. Jack thanked him and brought the supplies inside. The children giggled over the apples, their first taste of sweet fruit in weeks. Later, as everyone settled in for the night, Saraya lingered at the window, watching the empty road. Jack joined her. Do you miss your home? He asked gently. Saraya nodded. But I want my children to be safe, even if this place is cold and strangers hate us. Jack looked out into the night. In the shadows he noticed someone moving, watching the house, then slipping away before he could see who it was. We'll make this our home, Jack said softly, no matter what anyone thinks. As night fell, the sense of being watched grew stronger. Jack kept his rifle close, and Marcus's flashlight flickered in the shed. But inside for a little while, Saraya and her children slept deeply, feeling almost safe. Outside, the wind howled and the colony's cold welcome lingered in the darkness. But inside Jack's house, hope was still alive, burning quietly against the chill. The attack night came fast and heavy on Feroz, pressing against the windows with cold, black hands. Jack double-checked every door and window, making sure each lock was tight. He could feel the tension in the air, like the quiet before a storm. Marcus was outside in the shed, his old flashlight blinking every now and then. Inside, Saraya tucked her children under thick blankets, whispering gentle words in their language. Jack sat in the living room, with his rifle, eyes heavy but mind wide awake. The house felt both small and safe, but fear sat in the corners like a shadow. He glanced at Saraya, who watched him with worried eyes. You should rest, he said softly. Saraya shook her head. Not tonight. I feel something wrong. They are close, Jack, the raiders. Before Jack could answer, a sound outside snapped the silence, a sharp crash against the back fence, then voices shouting in a language he didn't understand. Marcus's flashlight danced wildly in the dark. Jack rushed to the window and saw movement, dark shapes slipping through the yard. Marcus shouted, They're here! Raiders! Jack's heart thudded as he ran to the door, swinging it open. Cold air rushed in, biting his skin. He saw Marcus fighting off two raiders, swinging a heavy piece of pipe. Another raider tried to slip past, heading straight for the house. Jack raised his rifle and fired a warning shot into the air. The noise startled the attackers, but didn't scare them off. The children screamed as the front door rattled. Saraya grabbed them and ran to the storage closet, her face set and brave. Jack pushed a chair under the doorknob and shouted, Stay back! The raiders banged on the windows, snarling and cursing. Suddenly, one of the windows shattered. A big, armored raider climbed through, holding a glowing plasma knife. He moved toward Jack, his eyes full of hate. Jack aimed his rifle, but the raider knocked it aside. The two men struggled, crashing into the table and sending dishes flying. Jack was strong, but the raider was stronger. Just as Jack began to lose ground, Saraya appeared behind the raider, her eyes bright with a strange, silver light. She raised her hands and spoke a word Jack had never heard before. A shimmer of energy burst from her palms, striking the raider and throwing him back into the wall. He groaned and slumped to the floor. Jack stared in shock. How? Saraya shook her head. No time, more are coming. She handed Jack a metal rod that glowed faintly, alien technology she had hidden in her bag. Use this, it will protect you. Another raider kicked down the back door, roaring as he charged. Jack swung the alien rod. A burst of blue energy knocked the attacker down, sending him tumbling into the yard. Outside, Marcus's pipe clanged against a raider's helmet, driving him away. The children cried out as another raider grabbed Saraya, dragging her toward the door. Jack shouted her name and lunged forward, swinging the rod again. It hummed and flashed, sending a shock through the attacker's body. He released Saraya and stumbled back. Sirens suddenly wailed across the colony. Someone had called for help. At last, bright floodlights flashed on, and more neighbors rushed outside with bats, shovels, and tools, yelling and driving the raiders away. The attackers, realizing they were outnumbered, cursed and ran into the night, leaving the yard littered with broken glass and footprints in the mud. Jack dropped the rod, panting, his hands shaking. Saraya hugged her children tight, tears running down her face. Marcus staggered inside, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, but grinning. "We did it, Jack. We stood our ground." The colony was quiet again. Some neighbors stared at Jack's house with new respect, others with uncertainty, but nobody said a word. The threat had brought them together for one fierce night. Jack turned to Saraya, gently wiping a tear from her cheek. "Are you all right?" She nodded, voice trembling. "We are safe thanks to you." Jack looked around at the wrecked house and battered friends, and for the first time since coming to Feroz, he felt like he truly belonged. He had protected his home and the family that had chosen him. Outside, the colony's alarms faded and the darkness returned. But inside Jack's home, hope was stronger than ever, burning bright against the memory of fear. Heart's unlocked morning came with a soft golden light, making the wreckage from the night's battle look less frightening. Jack woke on the couch, his head heavy and sore, but his heart strangely calm. He listened to the gentle hum of Saraya's voice in the kitchen, speaking softly to her children as she cleaned and bandaged their scrapes. There was laughter, real laughter, for the first time since they'd come into his life. Marcus knocked on the door, his forehead patched with a rough bandage. "How's the family?" he asked, smiling tired-like. Jack grinned, relief pouring through him. "We survived, thanks to you and to Saraya." He nodded toward her, watching as she made tea from alien herbs. The scent was sweet, calming. Saraya looked up and smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. "You both protected us. I can never repay you," she said, bowing her head. Marcus laughed. "You already did. You brought out the best in this stubborn colony." Even old Mrs. Delvin came with a frying pan when the siren sounded. He waved goodbye and promised to check on them again that night. As Jack helped Saraya clean up, she showed him a small silver locket, shaped like a teardrop. "This is all I have left from my old life," she said quietly. "My husband gave it to me before the raiders came." Jack took the locket gently. Inside was a tiny picture, Saraya and her husband, smiling with their children. Jack felt a wave of sadness for the family she lost, but also hope for the family she was building now. After breakfast, Saraya sat at the table, braiding her daughter's hair with strong, patient fingers. Her son asked Jack to show him how to fix a loose hinge on the door. Jack taught him how to use the screwdriver, making the boy giggle with pride. The small house, so empty before, now felt full of voices, laughter, and new memories. As the day warmed, neighbors trickled by. Some brought small gifts, fruit, bread, even a soft blanket. Others came with quiet words of apology or just silent nods. For the first time, Jack saw curiosity and respect in their eyes instead of suspicion. They'd seen his courage and Saraya's strength. The attack had changed something in everyone. After lunch, Saraya surprised Jack. She set a bowl of strange blue flowers on the table. "Where I'm from," she said, "we share these flowers with those we trust, those we love." Jack blinked in surprise. "Are you sure?" he asked, voice gentle. Saraya nodded, eyes shining. "You opened your home and heart to us when no one else would." My children have started calling you father in our language. I think. I would like that if you do." Jack's heart thudded in his chest, happiness blooming inside him. "I would be proud," he said simply. Soraya took his hand, her fingers cool and gentle. "Then let us be a family, not just for safety, but for hope. For love." Jack squeezed her hand, feeling the truth in her words. "I want that too." Outside, the colony was busy repairing fences and sharing news. Marcus stopped by with his dog, who licked the children's faces and made them giggle. The walls between human and alien began to crumble, replaced by smiles and shared chores. Even Mrs. Delvin knocked on the door and, with a reluctant smile, handed Soraya a loaf of bread. But peace was not yet certain. That afternoon, the colony. Leader arrived, his face grim. "The raiders are regrouping," he warned. "We need every hand, human and alien, to stand together." Jack stood tall. "We'll help. We're a family now. And this is our home, too." Soraya nodded, pride lighting her features. "We will not run again." That evening, Soraya sat beside Jack on the front step, their children playing in the last light of the day. She rested her head on his shoulder, her heart finally open and unafraid. "You gave us hope," she whispered. "And a new beginning." Jack looked at the sky, stars just starting to twinkle. "You did the same for me." For the first time in years, Jack's house glowed with warmth and laughter. He was not lonely anymore. The family he never expected had found him, and together they were stronger than fear. But as night fell, a distant howl echoed from beyond the colony's fence. The raiders were not finished yet. The final test was coming, a test of courage, unity, and love. Inside Jack and Soraya locked eyes, unspoken promises passing between them. Whatever came next, they would face it side by side as a family. A family forged in fire. The next morning dawned silent and heavy, the kind of day when even the birds seemed to hide. All around the colony, people prepared for another attack. Fences were reinforced. Marcus and a few others checked weapons and set up floodlights. Even the children helped, carrying supplies and running messages between homes. For the first time, humans and aliens worked side by side, nervous but united. Inside Jack's house, Soraya tightened her daughter's scarf and hugged her son close. "Today, you must listen to Jack. He will keep you safe," she whispered, kissing their foreheads. The children nodded bravely. Jack handed Soraya the alien rod, the weapon she used to defend the family before. "Keep this with you," he said. "You're stronger than you know." Soraya smiled, a fire in her eyes. "So are you, Jack." "When?" The first alarm sounded. The colony leader shouted orders. Raiders were gathering at the south gate, more than anyone had ever seen, armored, armed, and desperate. They had come to take what they wanted, and they didn't care who got hurt. As the first blasts echoed across the fence, Jack rushed outside, rifle in hand. Soraya followed with the rod, her eyes shining silver with courage. Marcus and the other neighbors spread out, forming a shaky but determined line of defense. The raiders crashed through the outer barriers, roaring and swinging their weapons. Panic swept the colony, but Jack stood firm, shouting for the others to hold the line. He fired a warning shot, and beside him, Soraya raised the alien rod, sending a crackling arc of blue energy into the sky. The display stunned the raiders, slowing their advance, but they kept coming. A group of raiders broke away, trying to circle behind the houses toward Jack's home, where the children hid. Soraya saw them and ran, moving faster than Jack had ever seen. She met the raiders at the garden, the rod glowing bright in her hands. "Leave us," she cried, her voice echoing across the colony. The rod pulsed, sending a wave of force that knocked the first raider flat. Jack arrived just in time, swinging his rifle like a club, blocking another attacker from reaching the children. Marcus and two neighbors joined, Fighting with pipes, shovels, and fierce shouts, human and alien voices rose together. Even Mrs. Delvin, the once cold neighbor, stood in front of Jack's door with a frying pan, daring any raider to come close. The battle was wild and loud. For a moment, it seemed the raiders would break through. But Saraya and Jack fought back to back, their movements in perfect sync, her energy and his strength, combining to protect everything they cared about. At the edge of the chaos, the colony leader's voice rang out, "Push them back. Protect our families." The tide began to turn. Raiders, shocked by the unity and power of the defenders, lost their nerve. One by one, they fled into the wilds, chased by angry shouts and the glare of floodlights. When the last raider disappeared into the trees, silence fell. Slowly, the people of the colony gathered in the middle of the road, battered but unbroken. Jack put his arm around Saraya, drawing the children close. Marcus grinned, battered but alive. Even Mrs. Delvin wiped a tear from her cheek and gave Saraya a shaky smile. The colony leader walked over and took Jack's hand. Then Saraya's. "Today, you showed us what it means to be strong together. From now on, this is your home. You are one of us." Cheers and applause broke out. The fear and suspicion that once haunted the colony melted away in the warm light of victory. That evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Jack, Saraya, and their children sat on the porch, watching stars appear. The children snuggled into their parents' arms, safe and happy at last. Neighbors brought food, stories, and laughter. Saraya looked at Jack, her eyes soft and bright. "Thank you, Jack. You gave us hope when we had none. You became our family." Jack squeezed her hand, smiling at the new life that had grown from one lonely night. "You saved me too. I thought I was alone. But now I have everything I ever wanted: a family, a home, and a reason to fight for tomorrow." As night wrapped around them, Jack knew that the hardest days were over. The family he never expected and the love he never dared hope for had made him stronger than he'd ever been. In the warmth of their small home, a new story began. Together, they faced the future, no longer afraid, but ready for whatever would come next.